Welcome. This is Crime Queen, and if you're joining us for the first time, this is the channel where we get excited about love. This is where we ignite that which dwells from within us, that which comes alive, makes us smile, makes us laugh. Hence, we say the crimson light is life. So, the crimson light is our journey to actualizing self full love. This is where we have fun with words and numbers, numerology to be precise. Okay, so we have been doing a number of presentations on our features. We have done breast, nose, eyes, ears, feet, and hands. We've of course done fingers, but we have to do fingers and nails again. And we are just paying attention. We have done breasts, or breasts, so of course, nourished us and really gave us a good dose of nourishment indeed. So we are doing those things. And while we are discovering so much through our features in relation to sacrifice, because it is believe, this is another word we are hinging on to, believe that if when we do that, we are going to get a better insight about the significance of Christ's sacrifice and how we can identify ourselves in that word sacrifice, or in the act of sacrifice. That as well would equip us to having the resources to become better expressions and versions of who we truly are, finding our purpose and being loved, sharing love, and more of what and who we are. All right, so I'm hoping, in fact, I would like to take the opportunity, as always, to introduce or reintroduce or remind ourselves this is Mother Eve with a third eye open. This is what we call having your, whether some would call it Kundalini or the pineal gland activated. This is what we doing here. In fact, as I say, intuitively or well, not accident, it happened. I'm not quite sure how my finger or must have done this demarcation here, but I'm believing it's really meant to be a presentation of reminding us of our purpose here, to open our third eye and to be able to see the beauty of life, to be able to see colors that we haven't seen, to be able to recognize the beauty of this wonderful place that we're in. Of course, it has what we call the ugly side as well, but when our eyes are open, it gives us that sense of being in that new position. In that new position, which is where we see it also has an I from the word sacrifice too, but it also is saying when you are in Christ, you are a new creature. It gives us that position of newness. That position of newness, it also is the position of Eve. Eve in the as our Mother Eve, because we are told that, or we learn that Eve ate of the fruit. The fruit is number 2 in numerology. I've just done this. And Eve also equals 14. When we add 1 and 4 together is 5. And that also puts us in the 5 position here with Eve. We also know that when we add this new hair, 3 5s of 15 hair, it also reflects 6, which we are the 6 is the number of man, the number of love. Of course, love is in numerology number 9, but we also see how that works very well together. That we see from 6 and 9 here. Of course, we also have done the numerical value that shows that the word beginning is actually 9 and end is actually 5. So, what is there something that we have been doing, so, or should we just dismiss numerology and say that the numbers have no significance? So really, this is my question. Why numerology? I am addressing this. Already I have done a presentation on that, but I would like to address this question again. And before I do, I am also inviting in our presentations, because we have seen this to work marvelously well for us: intuition, water, revelation, Eve, of course, and sacrifice. Okay, we are calling those forth because we believe that even as God called things into being, He has passed on that seed to us that we can also call things into being. Of course, we do that all the time. We think of someone or something, and there it is. We called it into being. We imagine something and we called it into being. So, this is what I am now consciously practicing, calling transparency in these presentations into being. All right, because this is really an intuitive presentation, and this is from the onset that I have been doing this intuitively. Whether we also value the idea of having scientific findings to accept a notion or not, but I am believing that there is the answer within us, even from the teachings of Christ, where He says the answer is within you. Within you, the word "you" equals 7, and in 7, it's like saying everything is in 7, because God created the heavens and the earth in 6 days, and on the seventh day He rested. So we are acknowledging 7 as you, and also even with the word "me," when we say "me," which is 9, we see that I have shown the process before, that from 7 there is a, because the number 8 is really whole. So it's a function that happens, that it goes from 8. So 7 is where we go. This is we call it gypsy journey. Gypsy journey on 7. Of course, the eye is open here as well. This is where God had rested and saw that everything He had done was good. His eye was open and saw everything that He had done was good. So He rested, but however, you could see that the head being raised was like someone looking up and saying, okay, how have I done? Turning north, south, east, and west. So we see that there. And we see with 8, it's a function of that wholeness of everything, which then is going from breaking from the 8, going into a new cycle. It's like, for instance, birthing at number 9, birthing a new era, a mother giving birth to a child. So we have covered those before. And so back to the question of why numerology. As I said, that I am doing these intuitively, and this all derived from, of course, I developed a love for numerology because I realized that in learning to love and accept myself, I had taken the exercises, I had taken on board exercises of actually looking at myself in the mirror, looking at my eyes in the mirror, looking at my features. And it's actually in my adulthood that I realized that I had actually taken the time to count how many round holes or circles that were on my head or my face. And I actually felt a little bit embarrassed to realize that it had taken me, perhaps I had done it before and forgotten, but however, not conscious of it, that I had 2 eyes, 2 nostrils, 2 ears, and 1 mouth. That denoted the 7. Then I realized that that 7 is in 1. Hence, we've got to do this We've got to do this because this is so delicious. Hence, the 7 circles that is part of my makeup in my head, those 7 holes, actually, when we do the numerical value for the word 1, which is one head, it's 6, 5, and 5. So there we are, 5 and 5, 10, 10 and 6, 16, 16. When we add 1 and 6 together, it becomes 7. So this is very, very important. So we're talking about one person, and there is these 7 circles, and we learn that we are cycles, or we are everything. We are of everything, but we are units in that one unit. And here we see that there are units, 7 of these units in that one head. So I'm just, of course, paying attention to our bodies gives us so much answers. And here, if we take the time to really study our features, our functions, and even just the physical appearance, we will see that we are numbers. So when it came to doing the long division in school, sometimes I got it, sometimes I didn't, sometimes I wasn't sure where to place the decimal point, or subtraction, or those things. And perhaps it's also numerology is presenting me an opportunity to revisit that which I had rejected. I hadn't taken it on board, I hadn't fully embraced it. And now I am consciously embracing the mass, which is, of course, adding. But also, the beautiful thing that I have encountered in Genesis of chapter 1 as well, where God said, "Behold, I have given you all things to multiply, replenish, subdue, have dominion, increase," and whatever those words, they all entail maths. They all entail numbers. You're going to replenish. How many things are you going to replenish, or how many you plant your garden? Of course, the story, of course, evolved around the Garden of Eden. Now, that's really important. And I love having a garden because it teaches me so much. We know as well that if you're planting, like I had planted corn, I know to put 2 seeds in the ground. And it had taken me a long time to really understand. Of course, I knew that God created Adam and Eve. There were 2. There were 2 here. The story goes on. We also know that there were 2 parents to have a child. Now, the story now has evolved in a way that I now believe that Christ has been, had tried very hard, if you like, because when he said believe, there were so many believe, and I've got to go into Matthew, I think it's chapter 9, I think that goes on about this believe, and I need to really, he kept on talking about believe. And as I said, in the word believe, in the middle of it, constitute lie, but it also constitutes of the word bell, which we know would be something that would echo really loudly, and perhaps it's like giving us that indication of what it is that Christ was wanting to echo so loudly in our ears, or in our ears, of course. And then we also have the word I or the letter I in the middle of believe. It's like in the middle of believe, there's the letter I, which we refer to ourselves as I. And of course, the word I or the letter I is what had caused this whole long story that we are involved in today, because Eve ate an apple, which equals 8, which is um, the eye, the third eye at the apple, and her eye was open. And of course, with Adam, their eyes were open, but that eye was open, and she became, of course, we see a living. Well, that's when God breathed in them. Sorry. So, but the word breathe as well equals 5, which is another aspect of numerology, because I have done presentations on that. So if you are watching this for the first time, you could check out the breathe presentations and to see really that the central position here of 5, which is new, which also equals Christ. The word Christ also in numerical value is 5. So when we are talking about numerology, we see that it does really offer us some insight into understanding the derivative of the story. Well, we know the story, we've heard it one way, but if we also pay attention to our features, for instance, we see that we are of north, south, east, west. Just put it this way. You can imagine it's like Christ on the cross. It's the same thing. Our head, our limbs, and the 2 feet were lapped over, but the feet being one. We see that when we do the numerical value for north, it comes to 30. This is 3. When we do for the south, the word south comes to 20. So that's 20 and 30 would be 50. But we see how that 5 has come in that symmetrical order. Right here. Right here is where that 5 has come, and it's no wonder, perhaps this is why it is said that it is the end. 5 really is end, E-N-D. Now, we also see that from the west is number 4, and to the east is number 9. This is in the east. We rise up in the east and we go to sleep in the west. So 4 and 9 is 13. 13 and 13, this is where we mark this 13 here. This is another cycle. So this 13 here, I will come back to how this one, which we can understand how this one comes about. We can see that how this template is working very, very beautiful, because it's S for 1, and A here also signifies 1. But however, we have done the numerical value that shows number 1 is also equaling 7. So it's as if our first 7 stage, all of our first 7 stage seem to take place under that number 1 where we do our jazz. And is it any wonder now psychologists have found out that, after the age of 7, it is very difficult to change the imprints of a child, for instance. So the age from 1 to 7 is the very crucial point in a child's development. Of course, I think it goes even earlier, but let's just look at this cycle. Okay, so why numerology as well? Going back to this, even as a practicing Christian, in the sense of going to church and doing all of those things which I used to do, it's really it really dawned on me, and even this with having discussions, I don't hear many people really making reference to the book of Numbers. So I'm thinking as well, if Number 4, as we are north, south, east, and west, because I would go in the mirror and I would be doing all this because I'm trying to get a sense of who is in here, what is this representing. And if we are doing all this, and there I had, of course, learned about Jesus on the cross, and I'm trying to make sense of how that relation is. So there I am 4, and he is showing that 4 points as well. This is where I understand there is also a W. When I see you, I am also facing my W. Okay, and whatever sense I choose to make of that W in that moment. So basically, I was trying to make sense of that W in the mirror, and realizing that for the 4th chapter of the Bible, which is the bedrock of Christianity, of course, it was not really spoken of. Or I wasn't really exposed that much to it. Of course, I have the privilege of looking myself, but of course, I'm being fed as a Christian babe. No, or even throughout, it's just not spoken much of. So I felt it was very important to look at both sides of the coin, so to speak. We look at one thing, but what about the other? Can we make a informed choice about looking at one thing one way and not knowing what distinction we are making from that which we are leaving behind? It's really like me, like myself, wanting to become a better person, but what do I know a better person constitutes? Is it only what someone tells me, or is it experiential that I could say, okay, I used to be this way, I used to do such a thing, and now I realize that that does not serve me anymore. So now I want to find something that serves me better. This is why I am looking at numerology. But of course, it only derived from a fun thing that I was doing, because I realized, of course, you go and fill in a form, and of course, your date of birth is required. It's numbers. You have your ID, it's numbers. Your driver's license is of numbers. Your birth certificate has numbers on it. There's an invoice with numbers on it. You go, you buy a car, the speed limit is of numbers. You get on the bus, it's of numbers. Your house has a number. Your toes have numbers. Your fingers are numbers. We are numbers. So, yes, we know that now we are 7. We are 7. So, because God is one and everything is part of God, or how we learn it to be. And so we see how that 7 is present in this discussion. Yes. But however, it's about, for instance, like having your home. You have a house, but you have different rooms in that house. So the house constitutes of different rooms. Hence, again, I'm not sure if it's said in the same vein, but Christ said, in my Father's house are many mansions. Which is, I thought a mansion was bigger, like a house, but it doesn't matter. Many mansions. And he said, if it were not so, I would have told you. So it's like saying that there are, in this sense, it's like there are many parts to us, many chambers to us. And talk of chamber, we see that the word mouth is also a chamber. And we are very complex beings, but when we get to understand ourselves better, of course, especially through numbers, I believe it's going to serve us as key. Hence, again, the word key equals 5. 5 also is equals the same as Christ, and we could say Christ is key. we also could say Eve is key, because Eve had the insight to know that the food was good. Of course, we heard about the discrepancy about it was a disobedience to God, which I believe that when we go through numerology, we'll be able to really get the full essence. Well, when we say the full, good enough, an essence of how that has come about, because God, we also learn, knew the beginning to the end. He created us in His own image and likeness. This is another thing we learn, in His own image and likeness. So there we are. In fact, perhaps it is a good thing that first He said, to whoever or entity, it is said that He says, we let us make man in our own image and likeness. But then it came that God made man in His own image and likeness. So we don't really know that there is some a blurred explanation there, because did He take on part of the attributes of the other entity that was there, that He would feel the need to say our own, or was it already recognized as what's yours is mine? And so it would be fair enough to say our own, or my, or in His own image and likeness. There was an ownership there. So there we are, just OWN. It's also a very interesting word, because the W is in the middle of own, which is also 5. And at the end we have 5, and the two ends is 6, which is 11, comes to 11. So we have been working with 5 and 2 and 11, which is 2. 1 and 1 is 2, and we see own is also confirming that 7, that God is, or God created us in His own. Own, it's like 1. So it's really like almost WON for one, spelled like, it sounds like the same thing, but it also equals the same thing. So own is 7 and 1 is 7. So why numerology? The other thing that I feel is very important as well, in the first book of Numbers, it does also state that when God was perhaps choosing, was it they were selecting, I think it was with Moses, was given the command to select the kings, or to select the tribe, or members of the tribes that were to be selected. Yes, so there it also states, and they were called by the number of their names. So the number of the names, we see numbers also played a part there. I believe every word stated in this Holy Bible was there for a purpose. I may not discover the purpose of every word, because of course, if in numerology, if I'm to take a whole sentence and to put it all into numerical value, it may also pose a degree of challenge in a sense, because it's also important that I have the verbal sound, the utterance, the verbal utterances to get. It's like having, the left and right. So we need the two to work together. And that really helps, of course, because I have already learned about the sound and utterances of words, and that helps me to understand, even when the word even, for instance, constitute Eve. So then with that knowledge, I could say, well, The word even, which is we use all the time, is really Eve's presence is there, and hence we are told that God saw that everything he did, and that also means that Eve is in the word everything. Also, Eve is in the word seven. So we can see that in the word seven lies Eve. And also when we see that God saw that everything he done was good. The word saw, so there is was, which is back to front to saw. Yeah, back to front. Okay, let's do this here. This was such a revelation here that I'm not quite sure I really wanted to erase it yet, but we see all these words here. Of course, just going over it, if you're new to this, we see breath equals 5, mouth equals 5, eye equals 5, life equals 5. This is what Christ said, I have come that you may have more life and have it more abundantly. You know, life and abundantly is equals 33, which is 6. So Christ is really showing there's the Eve. It's as if every time he uses 5, which was reflective of himself, but being reflective of himself is also being reflective of his mother Eve. There we see Eve also coming from the 14 generations. So we see the genealogy of Christ is of 14. 14, is it 14? 14 or 14 generations, thereabout. But we see that in actual fact, when God saw, it's like, and we see the word saw equals 7, it also looks like a saw that you would cut something with. So we have got those physical representations to give us the meanings of these numbers. So you cut something, and we, like, of course it has showed you could slice the brain and it still constitute all of what a brain is. So it's divided. The same elements or the same chemicals or whatever is still in both sides of whatever it is that you divide. So this is what God did. He saw that the heavens, he saw that the light was good, of course, and then we also learn that there was the lesser light and there was the greater lights. He saw the waters were good. So the waters above, the firmament, and the waters below. And of course, there's another story. I love to bring water into flow because water is reflective. And the first thing we saw was that, and God looked upon the face of the earth, the face of the deep, yeah, and it was void. What is water representing to us? That which was God looked into was water, and that has been divided. Could it be that that water, which is also life-giving, could it be that it also represents the feminine aspect of us? Because we see, like, a mother has milk to nurture. I have done the presentations on breasts. That dome, and there we speak of the kingdoms. And is it by chance we have all this lineage of kings and domes, which king equals 5, dome equals 5, kingdoms, and of course that correlates very well with the word Adam, kingdom. You know, because Adam is 10 and kingdom would be 10. And I just want to make sure that I am not mistaken in this. So there would be, it seemed like it's offering, let's see, oh, talking of Adam is right here as well. This is what I mean about synchronicity. I just, love this. So Adam is one, yeah, we see that Adam shows here, but King, King, 7592. So that's 12, and that's 9 is 21, 22, 23. So 23 is 5. So, and DOM, DOM, so that is 464. I like the way it goes, 464. It's like we're in the middle and the four elements, which is really corresponding to her. And this is really good. I love this. I love this because this is an exact, so this is the dome. This is a dome. We've been looking for wisdom. So the template is a dome. The template is offering us nutrition right now, which is what we are looking for to grow. So we see that dome offers us 4 on one side, then there is 6, and then there is 4 again. So here we are, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then there is 6. We have 6 here. This is the column, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 again. So this is really showing us the dome, because I have been exploring wisdom. We have been exploring breast. So we see here when God reflects or looked on the deep of the, or God saw that the earth was void, or looked onto the waters, onto the face of the waters, we are told, onto the face of the waters, and it was void. It was empty. So we see that's what happens as well. I mean, nature and what we have evolved into has been giving us examples of what and who we are. We don't know to what extent this story goes, but it would be that a mother is not having a child on her own, or something does not come into being on its own. So God said, okay, we are told, He said, let there be light. That was the first thing. Let there be light, and there was light. There was darkness on the face of the deep. So it's actually saying as well, the darkness, we cannot see ourselves in ourselves. So there was darkness, but when you say, let there be light, you are ready to look, you are ready to see, and whatever you are seeing is being reflected. You are able to do something at that moment. You are able to create. Let there be light. So it was dark because when there is darkness, we can't see. Whenever we can see, there is light. So it was called into being, into being. Here is the word in, and be in. And these are the two words as well that has really been very be, for instance, is the word here that has come into this section that we believe constitute a lot. It's like a beehive. When you bee, there is so much happening. There is sweetness. The bees can sting. There is so much happening there. Be in. And we see that the word in the Holy Bible is the first word in Genesis. In the beginning. So we see in is 5, 9 and 5 together. So we see that where 9 and 5 has come together, 9 is beginning, 5 is ending, but however, the first word of the Bible constitute both. Hence it is said, God is both the beginning and the end. If we were to separate the I and the N, we'd say I, and, but Even if we said and for N, it would still be bringing it, the N or and is still saying that there is a gel happening. There is a conjunction that is really coming together to moving on to something else. There is a unified spirit there. So I am hoping, because it's 40 minutes on here, I'm hoping that you have found this very interesting. So numerology, we are numbers. Intuitively, yes, we are calling on the presence of water, intuition, revelation to bring forth the light, because we are still asked to shine our light, because the spirit of light, when God said, let there be light, now we are saying, let there be light, because we have got that spirit within us to call forth this light and to see the reflection in the water, to reveal to us what is, and so we can move over to the right. Okay, I hope you have found this informative. I hope you have found it interesting, useful, beneficial. Okay, and please share and like and subscribe. And of course, in the meantime, be blessed, be bright, and stay ignited. Namaste. And spill over with love.